With me today on our Ohio University podcast coming from the AECOM Center for Sports Administration is one of my favorite alums in my tenure with the program, and that's Brian Gainor. Brian is the part of the MSA class of 2007, a great class, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But he is currently the Vice President of Innovation with Forefront, and some of our alums and listeners will know Forefront. Brian, you just went through a rebranding, but it was Property Consulting Group, PCG, and Sports Desk Media. So, Brian, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much, Jim. Really excited for the opportunity to be here chatting with you, and just an honor just going back to our days at Ohio back in 2007. So thank you for having me.
Well, maybe we start there, because, Brian, if you remember at that time, I was just coming into the job in December of 2005, so you would have been a first-year MBA class at that time. But early on, you ended up becoming a center with, or a graduate assistant with the center, but really brought something special to the program with a little bit of experience with professional football in Europe. So would you share that background with our listeners?
Sure thing. So I was always excited about the prospect of going to Ohio University for grad school. Both my parents had gone there as undergrads, and after being an undergrad at the University of Florida myself, I always looked up to Jeremy Foley and others in the athletic department that had gone to this incredible graduate program in Athens. And so I'd really set that in my sights early on at University of Florida, as I looked to try to figure out how do I get some experience and also figure out a way to go to grad school, knowing that I wanted to work in sports business. And so I had the opportunity to work in the University of Florida athletic department for a number of years, where I met some great other student volunteers who helped me get some internships at the Miami Dolphins, the Orange Bowl, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and just had an incredible time working in the athletic department. But that ultimately led to an opportunity that an alum named Jason Wallers had given me to go work for NFL Europe. So as soon as I graduated from the University of Florida, I had an opportunity to move to Germany for a year and serve as a PR assistant, living in Germany but traveling throughout the country and throughout Europe with the team, sending reports back to NFL clubs on how their players were doing. And then ultimately flew directly from Munich, Germany to Athens to begin my next chapter at Ohio. So it was just a really great opportunity to get some international experience before starting the program.
And if memory serves me right, Jason was the head of media relations with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Yeah, so at the time, Jason was one of the top guys at the Buccaneers that I worked with as an intern, and had done a similar experience himself, and was the one who really teed up the opportunity for me to get to go live and travel throughout Europe.
Great. And then if you look back, once arriving on campus, before, and we're going to talk a little bit about the MSA exclusives in your class, but you guys had a great class coming on board. So walk us through your first getting to campus and really some of your classmates. Time won't permit us to name them all, but you get things up and running, and you hear about the AECOM Center for Sports Administration was just in the works. So walk us through those early days on campus.
Yeah, my 2 years in Athens were two of the greatest years of my life, and it started from the first week we were on campus, getting to know so many of my classmates that are now some of my closest friends. We all came in for the summer, and so we had an opportunity to enjoy all that Athens had to offer without there being a lot of other students on campus. And so the likes of Daryl Dion, Josh Hafer, Matt Bixenstein, Wade Martin, a wide group. We really just got to know each other and build relationships. And again, just being in Athens together for 2 years, we had such a great opportunity to really just get to know each other and have a lot of great memories on Court Street. But also loved getting to meet the class above us. So became really close with Brent Shobe and Mike McAllister and Matt Shapercutter and Kevin Van Roy, Cameron Wright. The 2 years on campus for me, it was all about the relationships and the great friendships, I was able to build that I now call on every day as we all are doing different things in the world of sports.
Yeah, and it seems like yesterday that I went in my first meeting after I came on board full time with your class, and back in those days, you guys were doing some consulting through the Voinovich school, and maybe just for some of our younger students, walk them through that experience, because the model has changed a little bit over the years, but you guys were putting in a fair amount of time consulting as first-year MBA students.
Sure thing. Yeah, the MBA program was incredibly rigorous. We were putting in, I think, almost 17, 18-hour days, spending time in the classroom and then working on special projects through, at the time, was known as the Voinovich Center, where we essentially were consulting small businesses in Athens and surrounding areas and basically trying to help them save their business and work through developing business plans, solve, a lot of challenges with staffing and pricing and positioning their products the right way. So looking back, it was a crazy year, but definitely one that you now realize you really learn a lot about yourself and really help build a sense of work ethic and teamwork that I use now on a daily basis at Forefront.
And then back then, in those days, the model was do your MBA, spend the summer on your internship, and come back for your MSA. So could you walk us through your summer internship?
Sure thing. So I think I was one of the last to get a summer internship, not by design. When I went into the Ohio program, I really had set my sight on working for a beer brand and using sports marketing as a way to drive creative promotions and sell beer. So I really worked hard to try to get in the door at Anheuser-Busch and Miller Coors through some alums, but it just didn't work out. So I ended up spending the summer in Cleveland working for a small agency called the Superlative Group, helping them with a lot of different research and strategy-related things. But, one of the biggest memories for me was just getting a summer to spend with two of my classmates, Greg Primich and Matt Bixenstein, and just enjoy the city of Cleveland and learn some things that that really, I think, helped me shape, the rest of my career after I left Ohio University.
Yeah, it's funny to hear you say the Superlative Group, because two of our alums, Pat Neeser and Josh Law, who graduated last year, have both gone to work for that agency in the last year, so small world.
Oh, nice. Keeping the pipeline alive.
All right, so then fast forward, I do remember vividly the dream, I think, for years at the time. Boy, if you could work in the sports marketing department at that time, Anheuser-Busch would have been your brand of choice. And I know later you did touch and do some work with Miller, but the RevGen class, I remember it like it was yesterday. So I had a connection from the Central Hockey League, and we used to do the Budweiser power play. But I think your RevGen project was, okay, how do you put that thing on steroids and take it to retail? And your revenue generation project was all about an extension of the Budweiser power play. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was a defining moment for me, just the revenue generation class. I'd never been a part of anything like it, and I think just having you push us to, identify or develop a real-life solution for a brand that ultimately I was able to pitch and learn a lot from. It really was my first taste of sports marketing, and not just having ideas, but actually making that idea reality and thinking through all the different ways that you can make it work at retail, knowing all the loopholes involved. So I absolutely love the revenue generation class because, again, I think it helps a lot of people who have great ideas all of a sudden have to put it to action. And for me, it was really the thing that really continued to spark my knowledge and interest in working on kind of the brand agency side.
Okay, going through your MSA year, Scarborough we were just adding it to the curriculum, but you got to be pretty good at it, and if memory serves me correct, I think you spent a fair amount of your winter break doing some Scarborough research with the Minnesota Wild.
Yeah, so I give the program a lot of credit. I think Scarborough coming in and training the students is one of the most valuable things that they can do, and hopefully it'll be something that we can do on the digital side with Forefront. But it was great because it allowed me to get the opportunity you mentioned with the Minnesota Wild to go work for a guy named Steve Griggs and help their sponsorship team realize how they could be doing a better job using Scarborough to fuel their sponsorship pitches. And so just in a matter of 3-4 weeks, I was able to really make an impact. And now Steve Griggs is now president of the Tampa Bay Lightning and is one that I continue to keep in touch with. So that's what I absolutely love about the program, is that it just opens up so many opportunities for you to meet and work, and then also have a skill set that you can bring to the table that others in the industry can't.
Right, and back in those days, we were taking on some new initiatives on campus. I think right before my arrival, Friday night at the fights had been considered a legal liability. So your class in front of you really got some new things going that today is Race for a Reason. But maybe just share with the audience a little bit of the other practical learning experiences that you might have gotten as a center GA, or some of the projects that your class worked on.
Yeah, sure thing. You know, as I mentioned, I've got so many fond memories working in the center each day. And we were part of a pivotal class, you know, Jim, with you coming in and having a vision and wanting to change things. We had the opportunity to build the website, so worked directly with Jeff Eldersveld, who really led the charge on that. We created Bobcat Blitz from scratch, which really was how can Ohio do a better job activating around the spring game, and in turn came Race for the Reason. But then also did little things like adding elements to the alumni directory of which states people were from. But for us, it was really just such a great year to be in the program, because we were given a lot of opportunities under you to create new things that were valuable for the program, that I think many of us are really proud to see still in place. Especially to see what the students have done with Race for a Reason and things around the spring game, and seeing the website and social channels taken to a whole new level. It's cool to just look back and realize that that we had an opportunity to be on the very front end of a lot of that.
Right, and at that time, we really started to ramp up the recruiting of what today we would call an MSA exclusive student. And Dan McGallis, a great story, actually taught for me when I was at Arizona State, but he eventually wanted to teach, and he thought, I got to get my master's. And Dan ends up in your class along with some other great recruits that we had that year for MSA exclusives, and now today the two of you are working together with Forefront.
Yeah, and it's been honestly the best journey, having an opportunity to work alongside Dan and a number of other Bobcats. When Dan was in our class, again, he just brought a whole different dimension. He even, while he was in Athens, came up with the idea of pitching 7-Eleven on starting all Major League Baseball games at 7-Eleven, and it became a huge success that was sold in through the White Sox. But Dan is just, for me, he's proven to be just an incredible mentor, friend, counterpart. He really just is so great when it comes to relationship building, pushing the envelope, having brilliant ideas. We call it Megala magic. And I think even in the program, I didn't even realize, what Dan was all about and how great of a person he was. I mean, we had a number of alums, Matt Clay, Diana Corte, Jason Elias, Molly Wardak, that were all MSA exclusives that, again, are all that people that I keep in touch with today who have all gone on to do great things. But for me, just having the opportunity to work day to day with Dan now, it's just awesome, and it all ties back to, again, the great class that we had in 2007.
Cool. So now, fast forward, you took a little bit of a risk, but I think the pipeline had been established before you. Upon graduation, you went down to work with a classmate of mine, Mike Boykin at GMR, but you had to go in as an intern first to kind of win the day and have that turn into a full-time position. So Share a little bit of your thoughts just first going into the door with GMR down in Charlotte.
Yeah, so I was really excited for an opportunity to work at GMR. I'd gotten to know a lot of the alums, and for me, again, wanting to work on the beer business, using sports as a vehicle to sell more beer, my eyes were wide open going into GMR, knowing that Miller Coors is one of their biggest clients, and I was hoping I'd have an opportunity to work on that business. But for me, I was the only one in the class that took an internship coming out of it. And while there's probably a lot of advantages or disadvantages in doing so, what I learned early on was it's all about the people that you work with and whether they give you opportunities to prove your worth and contribute. And I had the fortune of going down to Charlotte to work with Mike and a guy named Todd Kesters and Jason Wolf, who gave me a tremendous amount of opportunities to learn and prove my value. And so that, kicked off what was a 9-year career at GMR, where I had an opportunity to work on a lot of different brands across a lot of big platforms, and was an incredible agency experience where I really learned a lot about myself. But for me, it really kind of shows it's all about the people you work with and not the company and not the title. It's all about who's going to give you the best opportunity. And for me, it was a great start to just an awesome career at GMR over the course of 9 years.
Yeah, and I would tip my hat to GMR because they let you do something special that became a hobby, a labor of love, and something that I thought just really was of great value to the industry, but it also helped you take your brand to a pretty high level at an early age. So do you want to, I don't want to give it away, so I'll have you run our listeners through what you did there.
Yeah, sure thing. Well, one lesson I learned early on with GMR was, I'd started as an intern and thought I was doing a lot of great things, but little did I know, Mike Boykin was calling you, Jim, to say, hey, what's up with Gainor? He needs to light a fire under himself to really get things going. And for me, that really was a catalyst. That really was a key moment for me to really push myself and not just settle for being kind of the new MSA. And so, Jim, I'm sure you remember that conversation vividly, and just want to say thanks because you're the one who kind of relayed that directly back to me to make sure I continue to have a job or opportunity with GMR. But after that moment, I really set out to work hard and try to figure out how do I differentiate myself? How do I add value? And at the time in the industry, it's crazy to think, but just 10 years ago, there was really only 2 sports publications that covered sports business, and that was Sports Business Journal and IEG. And so just being kind of a curious mind with a lot of great ideas, I set out to create a blog called Partnership Activation, which took off, and it really was just a matter of me sharing great sponsorship and marketing ideas and reaching out to teams and giving them an outlet to post or share anything that they were doing. And I never thought that an ordinary blog would help me develop relationships with teams and leagues around the world and start a newsletter that people I meet in meetings all over the place still talk about. But for me, it was just a great way to, I guess, become a thought leader without realizing it, just fueled by the passion I had for sports marketing and coming up with cool ideas and learning and sharing from the best.
Well, and I think going back to the conversation with Mike, my guess is that you were like most alums and just being polite and not wanting to steal too much of his time. But Mike was a developer of talent. He said, tell Brian he needs to get in my office after 5 o'clock. So it must have skyrocketed from there.
It definitely did. And again, Mike's one of the guys that helps you really build work ethic early in your career, and will tell you straight up what he's thinking. And so, again, you find people in your career that help mold you, and sometimes it's feedback that you don't want to hear, but sometimes that's the best feedback that really helps you change your behavior and really try to become a top performer.
And you're being modest about the blog that you started, but it eventually led to you being listed as a 30 under 30 with Forbes business, and Forbes at the time was just identifying rising stars. So I'm like, boy, it seemed like yesterday this kid was a GA in our center and Forbes 30 under 30. But that had to do a lot to help you, move that initiative forward. But then it becomes there's only so many hours in the day, and you and Laura make the decision to move to Milwaukee. I think they got closer to both your families. So walk our students and our listeners through that move and that opportunity to grow within GMR to their Milwaukee office.
Yeah, sure thing. So, I was working at GMR. I'd been there about three and a half years, and I'd just gotten married and kind of was trying to figure out if I wanted to stay at GMR or kind of move on. And I had a great opportunity through GMR to relocate to their headquarters. And I've always been told if you can find a way to get to headquarters, you're going to be in the middle of where all the decisions are made and have opportunities to really prove yourself. And so my wife actually had gone to school in Milwaukee, so it made a lot of sense for us to move up to Milwaukee, and had a great opportunity to work on the Comcast account with a couple fellow alums, including Chris Boggs. And at the time, Comcast quickly became one of the biggest players in sports sponsorship in the country. So it was a really fantastic move. But I was starting a family, and I was doing partnership activation on the side, and so I was able to balance everything and do what I felt like I was really doing my best across all three. But push came to shove, and eventually I kind of had to phase out doing the newsletter just as I started to have kids and prioritize things in life. But the move to Milwaukee and just continuing to find channels to grow within GMR were really just a great opportunity as I look to further my career on the agency side.
Well, not only did you learn how to balance everything that you had on your plate, but you are somewhat of a poster child around here for an alum that understands what giving back is all about. So when we start assigning alumni mentors and individuals that have always believed in giving back of their time, you're right at the top of that list. So I don't know if you can think back on some of the students that you might have worked with when you were mentoring them and where they are today. Do any stand out?
Yeah, sure thing. So again, through the program, I've been so thankful to have an opportunity to learn from so many alums. So anytime there's young students that reach out, I always want to try to help them in any way I can. And a couple of the ones that really come to mind that I feel like I've stayed close with are Sean O'Hara, who went through the program, who's done a lot of great things in the NFL, Terrence Thomas, who's now at Michigan International Speedway, Laura Waters Brown from the time that she was a GA in the center. But there's so many. And again, I'm a huge believer in the PMSA program, and just the talent that's coming out of the sports ad program is so impressive that you never know who's the next alum that I may be working for or working with one day. So I always try to take the time to get to know them and try to help them in any way, just because the more that we can stay connected as a family and help one another, it's only going to help all of us in our careers. So it's just been just an honor and a lot of fun to meet so many great people through the Ohio program.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about your years in Milwaukee. And a lot of our alums and current students are going to when is it time to move on? So you had grown your career really well there. So talk us through just a little bit of the growth in your career once you got to Milwaukee.
Yeah, so when I was in Milwaukee, as I mentioned, I worked on the Comcast business for 3 years, and that's really where I learned a lot about the sports business. With Comcast being a leader in both sports and media, they were really the front runners along with AT&T and really starting to shape the industry and how a lot of deals were done. So it was a really kind of tremendous 2, 3, 4 years to work on the Comcast business. But I actually then got moved over into a new division GMR created called Freshwire, which was designed to create content for brands. And at the time, that was the really hot thing. But I'd taken myself out of sports and moving into the content world for a year, was probably one of the best things that happened to me at GMR, because it really kind of forced me outside my comfort zone and really forced me to learn a different area of the business and kind of prove myself. So I had the opportunity to work with an entrepreneur through that named Sean Amos, and then a year later was able to go back onto more of the sports side, working in a new vertical GMR launch called the Sports and Entertainment Consulting Group. And that was the thing that I had always strived to work in at GMR, was to do sports consulting with brands around the world. And so, it's funny when I look back at my time at GMR, I had worked so hard for 8 years to get into the sports and entertainment group. Worked in it for a year and absolutely loved my time working for a guy named Adam Lippard, who's an alum, working alongside Jesse Giordano, who's another alum. But I just decided after a year and a half, I had a great opportunity to join Dan Magala and team, and just saw that as where I really wanted to take my career. I believed in what they were doing and building, and I continue to believe that. But forever thankful for all the Ohio alums that I had an opportunity to work with and learn from at GMR.
Now, Dan made a lot of news as he was growing his company by hiring you and another one of your classmates in Wade Martin. But, some of our alums and students are going to how do I know when it's the right time to leave a good job? Because you had a very good job at GMR. So walk us through, if you would, those early days where, Dan's saying, hey, here's where we're going to go with this thing, and I want you to be part of it.
Yeah, great question. So Dan and I had really talked for about almost a year just on what they were building at the time with PCG Sports Desk. And, for me, the reality of moving to Chicago with a young family, he really wasn't there at the start. But the more that he kind of painted the picture on how they were helping U.S. teams grow internationally, helping international teams and leagues learn from what we were doing in the U.S., on how they're helping teams and leagues and organizations around the world better understand who their fans were on the digital side, and having the ability to retarget those fans, I quickly realized that Dan, Josh Kreitzler, and Eric, who all were running the company, really had a vision for identifying blue oceans and capitalizing on those blue oceans. And I saw that with the opportunity to help teams and leagues grow internationally, to do more in the international space, to help teams and leagues on the digital side. And so that really for me was what made me decide to do the move. I certainly wasn't looking. I absolutely loved what I was doing at GMR, but I really believed in Josh, Dan, and Eric, who were leading and building the company, and I really believed in where the company was going and the blue oceans that they were playing in. That honestly is not the reality on kind of the brand agency side, which I almost look at as more of a red ocean, where there's a lot of agencies vying for the same brand dollars, and it's become very, very competitive and cutthroat, versus on the team and league and property side, I see so many opportunities to help teams and leagues as they become billion-dollar businesses and don't have the staffing and resources to capitalize on some of their biggest opportunities and solve some of their biggest challenges. And that's really what we've continued to set out to do with Forefront.
Now, a lot of our alums know Dan just through the industry, and some might have gotten to know Josh with his sports background, but as you're sizing up that opportunity, I think Eric might be one of the smartest guys in the industry, but he really didn't come out of a sports background, right?
Yeah, no. All Josh, Dan, and Eric, what I love about them are they're three of the greatest visionaries I know, but all three are very different. But they just always find a way to work incredibly well to lead the company. Josh comes from more of a background on the partnership sales side, helping a number of teams and municipalities sell naming rights deals. Dan comes with more of a idea creation, sponsorship, journalism background, and again has helped a number of teams and leagues do some of the biggest breakthrough ideas and partnerships that have ever been done. And then Eric Fernandez joined us, where Eric had worked for years leading sponsorships at AT&T, and during that time realized the opportunity that there's a better way for teams and leagues to sell tickets through digital. and also activate their partnerships through digital. And so all three kind of came together with a shared vision of creating a company that really doesn't exist in the industry, that specializes in sponsorship, partnership sales, digital, and analytics. And that's really what we've set out to continue to build. And again, it's great just to work with such a great group or trio that I think has such a great pulse on the industry and where it's going and how we can provide the greatest impact.
Yeah, and a couple of years ago on campus, once I really figured out what Sports Desk Media was doing, I was just blown away. I'm like, boy, I could have used that back in my days with the Cavaliers. But as I talked to my friends in the industry, more than 50% of their ad budget is now going to digital when it comes to selling tickets. So could you maybe, for our audience, just walk them through kind of the strategy and the retargeted advertising and everything that your company brings to the table in that area?
Sure thing. So digital is 100% the fastest growing area, or biggest need that teams and leagues have, realizing that only 5% of fans will ever go to a game. The ability to grow your database and grow your ability to retarget fans with custom messages, fans across the world, is such a blue ocean. And for years, teams have largely relied on Scarborough and Simmons data, where people have taken a survey and self-reported to be a fan to have an understanding of who their fans are, but never really fully understanding who those fans are or having the ability to retarget those fans. So what we help teams and leagues do on the digital side is, place a pixel on the team website that captures every single fan that goes to their site. We may not know those fans' first name, last name, or email, but we know everything about them based on their past browsing behavior, whether they have kids, whether they have a pet, what brands they buy, whether they drink Bud Light. And then that gives us the ability to then create custom messaging to retarget those fans wherever they're at online. So we use this as a way to help teams and leagues activate their sponsorships. So if they have a partner like Miller Lite that just wants to reach 21 to 29-year-old male fans of their team, we now can capture exactly who those fans are and then retarget them with a custom Bud Light message. We do the same with driving ticket sales, knowing that a young millennial will make buying decisions differently than a dad with 2 kids. We then can reach them with a message that caters to their needs. And the same goes with merchandise and a lot of other things. So digital is such a blue ocean for teams, and a lot of it is just educating teams and leagues on the opportunity of how much more they can know about who their fans are and how they can create new inventory or new ways to reach those fans wherever they're at online and not just rely on them to come to their website.
Good to hear you say that, because you guys have done a great job over the years helping us line up interviews for the sponsorship research we do for the National Sports Forum, and we had a chance to present the most recent study a couple of weeks ago. But there are some predictions out there that 3 years from now, the assets that teams will have that used to be throw-ins will be the most desirable as teams look to create new digital platforms and content. So take our audience through where you think this is all going.
Yeah, we're living it on a daily basis. So there's still many teams that are just selling banner ads on their website, email newsletters, and standard social posts. And I really believe we're in kind of everyone talks about the stadium arms race. I really think we're in a digital arms race. There's some teams on one end of the spectrum, like Manchester City, who have invested 30 people to build digital content and social content and really become a media company. And on the inverse of that, there's teams that just have one person that's managing their digital and social channels. When you look at the opportunity to build your fan base around the world and sell new or create new opportunities for sponsors, sell more tickets and merchandise, if I'm a CEO or CMO of a team, digital is 100% the area that I'm investing my time and attention in. And a lot of it comes down to the sponsorship assets. Gone are the days where partners want PA announcements and and static signage. They want things that they can measure. They want things that they can reach fans in the moment. They want ways that they can authentically integrate their brand. And so the big thing that a lot of teams and leagues are focused on now is how do we create authentic content with a partner that benefits the fans, the teams, and the partner. And when you can create that, that's the win-win-win that everyone's looking for. But it's such an interesting time right now where it's so easy for teams and leagues to get left behind if they don't continue to invest and understand what the opportunities are on the digital side. And it's been fun to I work with a number of partners like Mike Waddell at Richmond Raceway and Hendrick Motorsports and the Chicago Cubs, who I think have really understood the opportunity and have found a way to capitalize on it.
Glad to hear you say Mike's name. He and Daryl Bajomo are coming into our newly redesigned sports media class on Friday. So we've deemed Friday as NASCAR Day, and they're going to be sharing some of the work that you've done with them and some of the other initiatives that they have going on at the track.
Yeah, Mike has done a tremendous job in his year plus at Richmond Raceway. You know, Mike, he was a classmate of mine as well, and he's always been known for pushing the envelope in sports. And he's really looked at what can he do from a digital content standpoint to really change the perception and drive more people to the track. And he's done a great job. They've had a massive renovation project that they've really positioned as Richmond Reimagined, where they've done a great job bringing fans an inside look of everything going on at the track and identifying all the new attractions and things that fans can look forward to. He also has really moved away from traditional advertising, standard billboards and print ads, and has really looked to better use digital as a way to reach the right fan with the right message at the right time. And so he's really been, pushing the envelope in a number of different ways. And those are the exact type of partners we love working with. People that understand, it's good to take risks and be willing to fail and try a few new things as a way to generate buzz and give fans more reason to come out to their venue.
Right, and then another area that you helped us on a year ago, we did this partnership with Deakin University in Australia, Melbourne, Australia, to help make some contacts over there for a joint program we did in San Diego. But I remember the Sammy Awards like they were yesterday, and I'm going to ask you to rekindle the idea that I think Dan really got going with sponsorship for my favorite NBA team that tied around a player that was from Australia. I mean, in terms of creating new inventory, that is a best practice that I'm going to ask you to share with our audience.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning it. So we helped the Cleveland Cavaliers create something called Cavs Australia Day. And so 2 years ago, the Cavs kind of said, hey, outside of LeBron, we would like to identify what's something new that we can create that aligns the organization and really helps us kind of push ourselves outside of Cleveland. So we looked at their organization, and we realized that they're the only team in the NBA to have 2 players on their current roster that were born in Australia, Matthew Dellavedova and Kyrie Irving. So all of a sudden, it gave the Cavaliers an opportunity to tell a unique story in the market and try something new that no one had done, and that was really to build their brand and fan base and break through in Australia. Australia, for year over year, is the leading market for NBA League Pass subscriptions. So they knew that they had an existing fan base. And so while a lot of other teams were exploring other international markets, they felt like Australia was really one that they could break through. And so the way that we initially kind of went about doing that was helping them create this Australia Day platform, where we got the NBA to change a weekday game to a Monday night that was played live during what was then Australia's Independence Day that morning. So we were able to broadcast a live Cavaliers game, which was fully blown out using Matthew Dellavedova and Kyrie Irving, and broadcast it live in Australia. And it was so well executed that it was the number one trending topic on social media throughout Australia on their Independence Day. and it's really been a springboard for the Cavs to continue to grow their brand and fan base. And actually, we helped them get a sponsor for the event from Australia that didn't even sell any of their goods in the U.S. So it was a moment in time that I know Len Komorowski, their CEO, says, it's been one of the greatest things that they've done over the past couple of years, and it'll just be exciting to see the Cavs continue to build their brand and fan base in Australia as they look to do a number of additional things in the years to come.
Okay, so that brings us maybe towards, we're getting close to the end of this podcast, but you guys made a strategic decision to rebrand and take PCG, Property Consulting Group, and Sports Desk Media together, and you must have had a lot of internal discussion. Okay, if we're going to rebrand, come up with a new name, and I attended a couple of presentations at the National Sports Forum where you announced it officially. Walk us through what you get those creative minds in a room, yourself included. Like, how did you come upon Forefront?
Yeah, it was a great process, and we all along said we really wanted to do it right. We could have rushed and just come up with a name, but we knew that we really had one shot to do it right. And so it took us a number of months to create, working internally and working with a partner. But what we wanted to do is to create a company name that did a great job of telling our story. A lot of people knew us for who we were individually, but we really wanted to have a company that represented what we do in the marketplace. And a lot of that is we help partners sit at the forefront or come up with ideas to really be at the forefront of their industry. And we also do 4 things exceptionally well in the marketplace. And again, that was innovation, digital, analytics, and partnership sales. And so we firmly believe with the name Forefront, it's going to allow us to do such a better job of telling our own story, knowing that this is something that many teams and leagues and brands hire us to do, yet we didn't have the greatest name ourselves. And so with the new name Forefront, we're just really excited for an opportunity to just do a better job telling our own story and showcasing how hopefully we can work with a lot of other Ohio Sports Ad alums to grow their organizations. And so it's been a great 2 weeks with the new name, and just really excited for the future to come.
Okay, so this might come off to some of our listeners as a commercial plug, but you called me and said, hey, as we get this thing going, we would like to make an announcement on Bobcats doing business with Bobcats. And as we discussed it, I walked you through a new major gift that we had gotten from a company called Ephesus Lighting. And Ephesus Lighting does a lot of the, lighting for NFL stadiums, NBA arenas, college stadiums. And what we did with the large part of that gift is we started a scholarship in Doc Higgins' name. So you're asking me, like, hey, if we do something with Bobcats, doing business with Bobcats, and some of our alums do business with you between now and the end of May, you wanted to give back to the program, and what would the right way to be? And I said, well, why don't you tag along and put those dollars into the Doc Higgins scholarship? So some people have heard that through our newsletter, but I definitely wanted to include that today. But maybe just give a little bit more insight on Bobcats doing business with Bobcats, and how some of our alums might just reach out to you and Dan and everybody else at Forefront.
Yeah, and it's been an honor to launch that with you, Jim. I mean, Doc Higgins has played such a big role in my life, as I know all the lives of all the other alums. So to be able to kind of partner with you to help create a new initiative that ultimately will drive dollars back in honor of Doc Higgins, I think is, for me, just something I'm so excited about. But I know when I look at who are some of all our best partners, many of the people we work with are graduates of the Ohio MSA or PMSA program, or even the undergraduate program. And we all sign up when we go to Ohio University, to be a part of the family. And so what we wanted to do is to help create an initiative to help encourage more Bobcats to work with one another. I take the most pride in helping other sports ad alums grow their business and do great things in the industry. And we felt like by launching the Bobcats Do Business with Bobcats initiative, it was our way of hopefully incentivizing more alums to work with one another as we all look to do incredible things in the industry and give back. And so we've got 3 office locations here in Chicago, Dallas, and Denver. And if there would ever be an opportunity to work with another alum, whether it's informally or formally, we would love to find a way to do that and make that happen and be able to give a donation back to the program in honor of that person's name, in honor of Doc Higgins. So just really excited and bullish, and again, appreciate Ohio, everything that you've done, Jim, for the program, and hopefully creating something that others within the Ohio sports family can adopt, so we all can find new ways to work with one another and continue to be leaders in the industry after we graduate from the program.
Well, I think the new name you came up with, Forefront, fits the organization like a glove. You've got a lot of Bobcats on your staff there, and regardless if you guys were making a donation back or not, I think you are on the forefront of best practices and really keeping your eyes open for trends that are going to be there 2 or 3 years from now. So very glad that you can join us today for our second on a new series of podcasts coming from our AECOM Center for Sports Administration. But these podcasts, the other part of the gift from Ephesus is that they're actually powered by Ephesus Lighting. So anybody out there that wants to learn more about Ephesus, we're a phone call away, but you'll start to meet those folks at Symposium. And, as we continue to evolve and grow as a program, I think it's great that we get corporations like yours that are getting behind us.
And just want to say thanks to you, Jim, for everything you've done over the past 10 years. When I look at how much the program has grown and evolved with the PMSA program, the talent of students that are coming out of the program. We have Becca Hemby, Katie Foglia, Justin Baldwin. We've got some of the most exceptionally talented students I've ever had a chance to work with that are now, really making a difference in the industry. So just want to say thanks for everything that you've done with the program over the past 10 years, and just really looking forward to getting to know all the additional MSA and PMSA students that are graduating, and hopefully continually finding ways to give back and helping the program continue to be number 1 in the world.
Well, thank you, Brian, and we hope to see you here at Symposium.
I'll be back. Yes, looking forward to it in May, so thank you so much.